Now I'm definitely going to pick on the right person this morning. I picked on the wrong person. My apologies, stick bow. It was actually a question asked by Nut Thrower. Hey guys, how's it going? Okay. Now the big question is, Holmegaard, Mollegabet. You know, which is which, what is what. What about the names? And there were some bows that were found in an actual place that still exists, Holmegaard, Denmark. And they were different. And both of the bows could be called Holmegaard bows, even though they differed in construction. The one in question, the Mollegabet, and let me show an exaggerated version, my take, artistic license taken, but it produces a fine bow, demonstrates it probably a little easier than this one, taken from the measurements of the actual relic. And bringing this up just because you can see it better, wider limbs going to a narrow handle that acts like a lever again. You know, all the bend's taken through here and you reduce weight here, so you get an Atlantal effect. Let me put that back. That's also rawhide back and going to be finished today along with these two rawhide back paddle bows, P-diddle bows. Okay, and so we have the question, where does Holmegaard end and Mollegabet start? It's all in the names. Again, this example was found in Holmegaard, Denmark. The other one was also an unusual bow. Apparently 9,000 years ago, people were really thinking outside the box. And it looked more like a modern American-style longbow, and I think that's a funny term, American-style, because the American-style longbow is an ancient European design. We took it. We took their name, Murica. Okay, so the other Holmegaard, because there needs to be a distinction between the two bows, narrow, deep handle, but it was interesting. It was a backwards bow. It means instead of like this surface, the outside of the tree being the back, it was inside. It was a backwards bow with the handle protruding from the back. So that is an unusual design. Pardon me, sawdust. And so we have two distinct versions of bows that are both Holmegaard. Now, the reason why I am calling this a Holmegaard, not a Mollegabet, is because at heart, I am a troublemaker. But a troublemaker with a heart of gold. I do it for good purposes. Let me back up. There was a time earlier in my bow making and selling that I butted heads with English longbow people. Because back in the day, not a lifetime ago, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, there was this idea that all English longbows, even the medieval ones, were designed like the modern Victorian age proper English longbow. People stuck to that. Didn't matter if it was yew, didn't matter if it was elm, didn't matter if it was white ash, anything. They all had to be proper English longbows, which is a Victorian term, not a medieval term. They had to have this proportion of thickness, narrowness, and a rounded belly. So there was a contingent of people that, like if I said that a medieval style English longbow or warbow wasn't shaped like a proper English longbow, that I was wrong. And I don't have a huge internet voice out there, but I have enough of a voice, and I had enough back then to really make a lot of enemies amongst members of the English Longbow Guild. They didn't like that. I was a heretic. The one person in the English or the British Bow Guild or English Bow Guild that sided with me, that I emailed back and forth and chatted with, was Pip Bickerstaff, who actually built the bow that was shot by Mark Stratton, that, if you look in the Guinness Book of World Records, is the world's heaviest longbow. I challenged that, and Pip did too. He was kind of this lone voice out there. which now is not a lone voice because people agree that like if you have a U longbow, it's going to be built in a certain way because it needs to be stressed to perform well. So this round belly in U, narrow, deep design, is the way to do it, to squeak the most performance out of a bow. If you're building it out of elm or any other whitewood, that is a recipe for disaster. You can do it, and you can see people that have built, I have a white ash longbow that's built like a proper English longbow, 120 pounds, and it works. Maybe for the first 10 shots, maybe for the first 20 shots, but I challenge anybody to build a white ash war bow, weight bow like this, following this design. It's going to last for a long time without gaining major string follow, because ash does not want to do that. And so my troublemaking had good purposes. It was like to shake people's minds, to make you think, to encourage discussion and arguments, eventually arriving at the truth. And so even though this isn't going to be very family friendly, but a person who happens to be in the Guinness Book of World Records as the archer that shot the world's heaviest longbow referred to me as the asshole American that doesn't know what I'm talking about. That was a quote in a forum. There was some chatter about that. Partly because I threatened to build a bow heavier and then find some NFL player, which Philadelphia Eagles, I found a person that could draw a bow that would be heavier than that one. But for various reasons I decided not to, because, you know, that's just, I don't know. Why? Why am I going to invest that much money in it? Because it would have been expensive. I was going to go black locust with a massive sinew backing. That would have been an expensive bow and a huge investment in time for me. And the archer that I had wanted to keep the bow and also have me pay for it, so we had a falling out, and that's that. Anyway, long story short, I want to be a troublemaker. I want to be a troublemaker in this Mollegabet and Holmegaard discussion, so we can really arrive at why we're calling things certain things. Now, if you Google Mollegabet, it says it's a submerged Mesolithic society in Denmark. It's odd, because that submerged society included Holmegaard, but in some ways I think, and I would like to drive at the whys, who originally called this a Mollegabet? And why did they call it a Mollegabet? Was it simply to distinguish this between the other bow, so they came up with another name? Was there any actual evidence that the Mollegabetians did this and the Holmegaardians did the backwards bow? Am I arguing a point that doesn't really matter? Because sometimes, you know, we want to call things certain things just to distinguish them. And so that is that. I am perfectly content calling this a Mollegabet because it distinguishes itself from the other Holmegaard bow, the backwards bow. But then again, we could call this the Holmegaard, which this was called the Holmegaard for a while, and call the backwards bow the Mollegabet. So let's try to be somewhat precise in why we call things certain things. It may actually not be rooted in history, although maybe the Mollegabetians, more encompassing, did this, but maybe they also did the backwards bow. Maybe we should just settle on the notion that the only reason why this is a Mollegabet and not a Holmegaard is that we just chose to give different names to two bows that were found in the same place. And so, overthinking things as usual, I will end that at that. This, by the way, 70-pound white ash at 29 inches. It looks like it needs to be retailored a little bit. You know, it's old. A sinew string. I didn't trim the ends. I like the fuzziness of it. This may or may not be what the actual sinew strings back then looked like, because I don't believe they had fingernail clippers. That is all. It is time. I need to go get my shaving horse and bring it down to the basement so I can finish the tips and begin painting the paddle bows in this Mollegabet back here. This one is not going to be painted. This is not going to be decorated any more than the rawhide and the greasing. And I'm going to do an egg tan. I don't have any brains, so I'm going to do an egg tan buckskin handle on this thing. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it, and I hope I answered your question or inspired people to argue a little bit and figure out the reason why we call one a Holmegaard and other a Mollegabet. Both cool names, both very cool names.